Now, how do I answer such a complicated question?
40 years.
Yes, you see, I think, as it started earlier, I think the problem of Uganda is not corruption per se, it is the way we address the challenge of corruption. I think because we look at corruption with a moral lens, we want to take everybody to church and make them angels, which is impossible.
Or the mosque.
Yes, as I told you at the beginning, my own feeling is that what does Uganda want? You know, the first principle of command, and it's also the first principle of strategy, is selection and maintenance of the aim. What is the aim of the state of Uganda? Once you, if you're going to war, let me assume Uganda is going to war with Kenya. Say, what is the aim of the state of Uganda? Look at this war between Iran and the United States. It is to subordinate the will of the state of Kenya to the will of the state of Uganda. That's the essence of a war between countries. That I must beat you so badly so that I dictate the terms. So whether we blockade Mombasa port, bomb Nairobi, or occupy Eldoret, each of these actions must be weighed against the aim. How do they contribute to the overall aim of subordinating the will of the state of Kenya to the will of the state of Uganda? Otherwise, you can bomb a country to the stone age like America has did in Vietnam, America is doing in Iran today, and you don't secure your political objective. So it also comes to corruption. What is the aim of the state of Uganda? If I say it is to deliver public goods and services to the citizens and transform the economy, you ask yourself, how do I achieve that aim? The aim is to focus on the result that you want. Earlier I said, we have accountability for procedures instead of accountability for results. I'm not against procedures at all. I become against procedures for two reasons. One, procedures can be a cane and a cake. They can be self-contradictory and backward. That is one. Two, they can even defeat the very purpose for which you set them there. In any case, procedures implemented by human beings, so human beings can manipulate them as they wish. So once you have set the aim, the role of procedures to say, did the procedures help you achieve that aim? So it comes to my great-grandson, Segona here. You know, I'm the grandfather of his father. I come to this issue. I'm not against procedures. I want people to understand that. But if the adherence to procedures undermines the aim, because procedures are a means to an end, not an end. In Uganda, procedures are an end. In many countries, actually, bureaucratic procedures become an end, and that's what we need to look at. They should always remain a means to an end. If they cannot help you achieve that end, then they must be reformed and you put procedures that allow you to achieve the end. When you turn procedures into the end themselves, you get stuck. So we come to corruption. I don't even want to deal with it. What do I want as Museveni? And this is where Museveni fails. I have the Minister of Works called Segona and his PS and his team. Did you deliver the right quality of road at a competitive price in the agreed time frame? Those are the three questions. If you begin trying to enter, did he take a commission? Did he do this? Those things you will be investigating. Because you see, corruption has two things. It has a double coincidence of criminality. The giver and the recipient have committed a crime. Am I correct?
You're right.
It also has a double coincidence of profitability or benefit. The giver and the recipient both have profited from it or benefited from it, right? None of them is willing to reveal the other because of the double coincidence of benefit and the double coincidence of criminality. So it is very difficult to prove that somebody took a bribe. And for me, I feel like that's why Uganda has hit a dead end. We have the anti-corruption unit as set up. Am I correct? We have the IGG. Am I correct? We have the DPP. We have CID. We have CMI, it intervenes in these things. We have social media. We have Auditor General. We have in fact, in 2015, I looked at Uganda's budget. The fourth largest budgetary item in Uganda was accountability sector. It was the fourth largest after, I think, education, defense, health. The fourth was accountability. So although the country is sinking under the weight of corruption, it has so many anti-corruption institutions. That's nonsense.
No, it could be worse, Andrew. If there was no watchdogs in this country, it could be worse.
Because Ugandans are just obsessed with stealing.
My granddaughter.
Yes.
My granddaughter.
You wouldn't be losing 10
can you allow me to speak?
I've allowed you, grandfather. I'm sorry.
So let me tell you, I think if there are Ugandans with experience on studying corruption in this country that are more than me, I can count them on the fingers of my one palm, like this. In fact, let me tell you, the biggest source of corruption, the accountability institutions, including Parliament, the Public Accounts Committee and all other oversight committees, increase corruption, they don't reduce it. I think that to reduce corruption in Uganda, we need to cut the institutions of oversight and institutions of accountability by 90%. Let me illustrate for you, Parliament. Assuming I'm a permanent secretary, I have been stealing money in the ministry. Now, the Auditor General comes to investigate me. You can buy off those guys when they come. You can pay. 2, when I'm going to appear before PAC, so the Auditor General's report is already compromised, but they may have 20 or 15% of my theft there. Before I appear before PAC, I send money up front to the members of PAC. You may reach there and they do theater for public purposes, but in their final report, they will exonerate you. You can pay in advance. Right? So it is not true that these institutions become new layers of corruption. If I do a procurement, you can go and bribe IGG, you can bribe PPD to get the result you want. It is not true that because they're accountability institutions, they are manned by non-Ugandans who have come from Japan and are honest. She has already stated it herself that Ugandans are thieves. So you're asking a thief to catch another thief? Or what is that? Yes, I'm telling you, if you want to reduce corruption in Uganda and wastage, you have to cut down all this nonsense called accountability. And once you have cut it, then you need to have a very strict president. I hope one day a person like him takes over control of the state, because I know him personally. This is nonsense he cannot tolerate. He will demand, I want the result. So in Uganda, we don't demand results, because ultimately when we take you to court, we can say, did he follow every procedure? Yes, but the road was not built, or what was built cracked in 3 days. It is this lack of attention to results. Earlier I was telling you about the standard gauge railway. Again, in this country, there is a man called KK, Kasinja something. He was head of, you should talk to him. There could be not more than 20 people who are better informed about SGR than me. That railway was supposed to begin construction in 2017. 2017. When this process started around 2012, my granddaughter there was talking about compensation. Yes, why don't you compensate people all those days? If they are blocking your way, okay, how come Uganda, and this is why I critique Museveni, by the way. You see, the difference, let me not compare Museveni to anybody else. Let me say, the problem I see with Museveni as an individual is, where his job as president of Uganda is concerned, he's willing to break the rules, to run roughshod over people's rights, to disregard due process, to do anything to get his way. When they came to amending the constitution to remove age limits or term limits, there is nothing he was not willing to do, or to win an election. He will kill, he will maim, he will rig, he will do every single thing, he will bribe, he will do anything to get his way.
But he's the one that was...
Hold a second, my granddaughter. When it comes to doing something for the development of Uganda, I have not found him willing to do similar, to achieve the ends he wants. And this is my criticism of him. In fact, I think that Ugandans would have appreciated Museveni much, much more. I don't care whether he ruled for 500 years, I tell you. But if he demonstrated to Ugandans that when it comes to serving the interests of Ugandans, whether it is to ensure that a road is done, a dam is built, the healthcare system works, he's willing to go that extra mile that he goes through to protect power. Now, of course, I can be fair to him and say, if you're Museveni, you have a vision, you cannot achieve your vision when you have been overthrown or defeated an election, you are in jail or exile or in Wachtura. So holding and retaining power is a very important factor in a leader's desire to achieve a vision. I understand that. But when the strategies and tactics and the means you employ to retain power defeat the very purpose for which you want that power, which is the transformation of Uganda, it doesn't make sense. Unless you say power is an end in itself. But if you are looking at power as a means to an end, as I think Museveni does, and then the strategies you're employing to retain that power undermine your ability to achieve that end, that's a loss of strategy. You see, so this is where my criticism comes, that ultimately Uganda has failed there are structural bottlenecks that make it difficult for a person in Museveni's shoes to achieve a lot of the results that we always expect. Both human resource, our ethnic fragmentation, you get. But I'm also aware that even putting into consideration the structural constraints that he faces, there is sufficient room for agency to achieve the very minimum, like to ensure that you have actual roads, those that you can build are maintained, that you have certain institutions like Malago or Makerere University that are well managed and remain at a particular standard. And so sometimes we get so consumed by looking at structural constraints on leaders, we forget the role of agency, leadership in achieving particular ends. So Uganda has these problems in large part because I think that at the managerial level or at the level of strategy, Museveni has been, I consider him to be one of the greatest strategists. This is the problem. But in terms of strategy for transformation, I have found him really, really, really weak because he has allowed bureaucratic inertia to block his vision. He has made so many compromises that have undermined his ability to achieve his vision, significantly crippled it. In that sense, he has turned himself into a very good navigator. You know, moving on a ship. Has anyone of you moved on a ship? There are two people. There is a navigator who navigates the ship to its destination. Then there's what they call a seamanship. Seamanship is the ability to keep the ship afloat. So he has been a very good seaman. He has been very good at seamanship, keeping the ship of state afloat. But he has been very poor at navigation, which is navigating that ship to a particular port, which is your destination.
So let me put a question to you. Someone suggested the ministry for you, but what would the next cabinet in the next 5 years to deliver what you were speaking about look like?
So the most important resource of any country is its human resource. I can tell you can be like South Korea or Japan, you have no minerals, no agricultural potential, no forest potential, nothing, and still be a highly advanced country. Why? Because you have brains. So I want to ask you, just look at the cabinet that is going out before you think of what is coming in. Does that cabinet reflect the best brains Uganda has in practically every sector? For us to transform, we need a Ministry of Trade that can be able to open for us markets for our products. I want to ask you, when you look at the Minister of Trade and his entire team in the Ministry of Trade, is it sufficient to drive that transformation? Because I should tell you guys, development takes place in the context of trade, international trade. No country that doesn't trade international has transformed. None. So, who is your Minister of Trade? Okay. What are his competencies to do that job and deliver the trade you want? Who is your Minister of ICT? We are living in a modern technology. There is, I think, a minister who is responsible for ICT, a minister of state, a lady, I'm told she was a hair salon owner or something. Whatever she is, that is the human resource. Sebugwa or something like that. So the bottom line is this. And I don't want to just even, you can as well have those ministers, but maybe they can be relevant. But if you have a bureaucracy, a system that is well selected on the basis of professional competence, international exposure and stuff like that, do you have it?
Okay.
Now, let me finish for you, my grandson. Again, I don't want to be unfair to Museveni in the sense that sometimes holding power may require him to have Medad Segona because he delivers the Baganda vote. To have Andrew Mwenda, he brings the Protestants. To have Sarah Sali because the women's vote is there. The Catholics, Museveni has to juggle so many things anyway. And Mr. President, I understand you perfectly well. I'm not blind to the necessary political compromises you have to make in order to hold this country together and ensure that you have to, first of all, before you navigate a ship, you must float, it must float. The seamanship is critical to shipping because then navigation takes you somewhere. So, but if you get bogged down at the level of seamanship and never go towards navigation, that's where my criticism begins.
But Mr.
Because you can, hold
plan.
A second, my granddaughter, because
at what point do you hold Ugandans accountable? Because, I mean, it feels like in your mind, Museveni is supposed to like literally do everything in everybody's home and get everybody to
Let me
develop.
put it this way, guys. You see, me, I'm a big fan of soccer. We follow the Premiership. When the club is failing, there are so many reasons why it has failed, but we always fire a manager.
That's true.
Yes, we fire a manager. So, in this sense, Museveni, the buck stops at him. If he thinks he cannot build an effective system.
He's actually not the manager. There's managers and he's an overseer. He's a CEO.
My granddaughter, please, me, I'm the best person when it comes to interrupting. You may fail to speak when I begin to interrupt you. So I don't interrupt anybody and I don't expect
He
you.
can
So
even interrupt himself.
I learned from the grandfather.
so the point I am making is this, that he ran to be president, to be chief executive, and we have to hold him to account because I am not the one who appoints ministers. He's the one who appoints them. Ugandans and the parliament don't appoint these ministers, these are appointed by him. And a lot of his choices of prime minister, minister and all this fall far below what this country is capable of fielding and achieving a lot of the aims. So, Mr. President, my advice to you, me, I'm an old man. Museveni is 81, I am 113 years. So I'm about 32 years older than him. In fact, I'm old enough to be his grandfather. I have a niece who became a grandmother at 31. So, the point I want to make is this, that ultimately, Ugandans must see in the selection of ministers, of permanent secretaries, of heads of government institutions, the best that this country has produced. Me, I have been to Google, I have been to Apple, I have been to every top company, Oracle, you have Microsoft. You find Ugandans in top positions. I was in Japan one time, I found the head of their self-driving motor division is a Ugandan, Larry Yombi. Was working in Google, then but you're building a company called Kira. Kira! Why? Okay, at least you can call him and consult him. You go to Detroit, isn't that the headquarters of General Motors? The head of the procurement division, the head of the procurement division for electric vehicles, he's a Ugandan, a cousin to the facility. Why don't you call him here? He speaks to you about cars and you say, wow, but we are building one. Why don't you look for this talent? So I have an issue with Uganda's approach to human resources. Human resource is our greatest thing. Our human beings, our talented Ugandans are the ones that will bring transformation. No amount of oil in the ground, iron ore, whatever can transform this country, but the greatest thing, they can contribute to the transformation, but our human skill is the most important. Are we utilizing it optimally? That's my question.
Thank you.